Welcome back to another edition of the Night Report podcast. I'm Mike Broadbent, and joining me once again is Richie Schneiderite. Richie, got a couple things to talk about. We had another scrimmage on Saturday, so it's the second and final scrimmage for the Rutgers football team in the lead up to the first game this season versus Boston College. But first, this podcast is presented by BetOnline. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports contests and events with first-to-market line odds. Lines and odds. Find reviews and news for every league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all of your sports information, from live in-game betting, props, and futures. Head over to BetOnline today, and or use your mobile device to make your first sports bet. Use our promo code BELIEVE50 BLEAV50 to receive a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. That's BetOnline, where the game starts.
Yeah, I mean, like I say it every time, 50% free money is free money, and take advantage of that. And we're also sponsored by Adam Goldman, franchise coach. Basically, if you're trying to start your own career and kind of put everything into your own hands, and you want to start up a franchise or be in charge of a franchise, Adam Goldman can kind of help you. Jersey-born guy, Watchung Hills native, Night Report member for a couple years now, Scarlet Knights fan. He's trying to connect more with the fan base, trying to help you guys out, to help him out. Basically, he'll use his expertise. He helps others find their own kind of American dream. It's a free consultation process, so feel free to reach out to him. It's very simple. You can check him out on franchisecoach.net or 844-800-3726. Give him a call, and if you want anything more on him, any info or anything, just hit us up, and we'll throw it out to you.
Awesome. So let's talk the scrimmage. So this is the second and final scrimmage, and I could have swore we used to have three, but I don't know if it's new NCAA regulations or just how they decided to kind of structure camp now. So I know you can't say much, but talk in generalities. Did the team look like it's improved from scrimmage 1 to scrimmage 2?
They're getting better. They're progressing. As Shiano says every week, they're clearly progressing. They're getting a lot better. Obviously you have to. I mean, you got to start ramping it up. Like this is it. Like they're about 18, 19 practices in. Like season's a week and a half away? A little bit less than that, maybe.
Yeah. So the kickoff on.
Yeah, we'll say a week and a half about.
Yeah.
Just got my approval today, so I'm excited to go up there. It's going to be interesting. Chestnut Hill is quite the venue. I've heard. Interestingly enough, whatever. But the scrimmage, there's still no quarterback, and I'm not shocked. I don't remember the last time Shiano's actually named a quarterback in training camp. Never, maybe.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's probably been since Mike Teal. It's been known 100% who's going to be the starter week 1.
It's going to be so interesting because, even if he names a quarterback, you have three pretty good options, it seems like, in Simon, Vedral, and Wimsatt. And we've seen it in the past. Shiano's not afraid to pull guys. This man just pulled a freshman All-American for some random two-star out of South Carolina, and Chase Dodd, and it worked out a little bit. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I still think Vedral's the front runner without a doubt, but we'll have to wait and see. Obviously, you have two young guys in Wimsatt and Simon. Offensive line's progressing. It sounds like they do have their top 8, he told us. Now, they don't have their top 5. That's the big issue. I think you can kind of pick and choose through those names to see who the best 5 are without revealing too much. It's pretty obvious. I think you can kind of say guys like Colin Pierce and J.D. Dorenzo are kind of locked in. The rest, it's a tough call. It's still pretty close. And then linebacker core, it's interesting. Not a lot of bodies there. That's the scary part. He did go out of his way to mention Austin Dean and Jameer Wright Collins. Actually, even called Wright Collins a natural, which kind of could have told you that out of high school because he played linebacker in high school. He looked good at linebacker in high school. But then they brought him in, tried him at running back, and they liked him as a big power back, and it just didn't work out. But he'll have to learn. He's just going to need a lot of consistency, a lot of reps, and all that stuff, and he'll get there eventually, I think. Maybe he won't be a every down linebacker for them anytime soon, but he could be a rotational piece. I mean, he's going to have to be since there's only 6, 7 scholarship linebackers healthy. And then they named a starter, a kicker.
Yeah, so Shiano's been pretty tight-lipped about really naming any competitions being over or favoring anybody, but he did come out and say in his post scrimmage presser that they've established who the kicker is, which was one of the muddier battles. But Jude McAtamney, he's from Derry, Ireland. He spent last year at Chowan University, which is a D2 football program. I did a bit of a deep dive about this kid, just to kind of run you through what we're going to be looking at this year. So he's got 2 years of eligibility left. Last year, he was in his first year of college football, it seems. He went 47 for 47 from extra points, which is awesome. He had 60 kickoffs, and 19 of them were touchbacks. And he went 6 for 10 as a field goal kicker. But that's a bit misleading. So Chowan was one of the highest scoring teams in D2. I think they were the 12th highest scoring team out of about 170. They averaged almost 40 points a game. So he scored a lot of touchdowns, obviously, from the 47 extra points. But also all his misses were fairly long. He missed from 47, 45, 40, and 36. So it's not like he's missing chip shots. And you also have to consider, like, this kid was playing Gaelic football like 4 years ago. So he's new to American football. I think there's a lot of growth potential with him based on what I was watching all of his kicks from last year. He's got a huge leg, it seems. Sometimes you could see it from like just kicking an extra point when guys like boot it like way too far. That's what it looked like. He was just like kicking the thing over the net every time he was kicking an extra point. So I think this kid's got a lot of potential. Possibly one of the better kickers we've seen in a while, in my opinion. But obviously, we're not going to know anything until the lights are on and he's got a pressure kick. But
yeah, I found it kind of interesting because everyone I talked to when they first got him was like, yeah, we needed a kickoff guy. Obviously, like we lost a couple dudes. Valentino's gone. I forget. I think was Father the kickoff guy last year. I don't even remember.
I think so.
Yeah, and they were just not. I don't know if they were confident enough in him to do it again. So he actually came in as the kickoff guy, and then he just started kicking, and they're like, holy shit, like this man can kick, like. Mm-hmm. Interestingly enough, this Chowan team's special teams unit must have been pretty damn good because they got a kicker that's going to Rutgers, they got a long snapper that's going to Baylor. Oh, wow. So I mean, like the unit's pretty good. It's and he's got 2 years. I mean, he was second team all conference last year in CIAA or whatever the hell it was. Mm-hmm. But if you look at his Twitter, he's got a couple highlights if you want to call them that. Mm-hmm. Obviously, there's not a pass rush coming after you, but he's going 3 for 3 on 50-plus yarders. I mean, he seems pretty good. He had a 65-yarder at one point, and it's like, holy shit! Like he's got the leg. The kickoff thing, he's probably going to take off kickoffs as well, and he's worked out with Pro Kick Australia, who's obviously everyone knows because of Corsac, and I mean, just keep this pipeline going from Australia to, I guess, just working out with these Pro Kick guys, and they obviously know what the hell they're doing when it comes to special teams, and it's working out. Now, there's still one big question mark at special teams. We know Rutgers has a punter. They have a kicker. Mm-hmm. We don't know the long snapper, which I don't think a lot of people saw coming.
I agree with that, especially given that Billy Taylor was such a successful long snapper, and his younger brother was, given a scholarship as his like kind of successor. Mm-hmm. And it's surprising he hasn't won that job yet, based on everything that we're hearing. But yeah, an all international kicking and punting group, I think that's going to be fairly common moving forward for a lot of programs. And Rutgers is clearly kind of bought into the idea that these international guys, while they might not be super familiar with the game, they've clearly got a ton of potential because they've been kicking balls their whole lives while we've been throwing them and catching them as Americans. So
Ash just targeted the wrong position group in the wrong country, I guess. You can't go for Sweden, you got to go for Australia.
Yeah, but I give him credit. He did find Corsac, even if it was kind of spoon-fed to him. But
yeah, sure, whatever. I love Adam, but like, fuck you, Chris.
Yeah. So what other kind of takeaways do you have from the scrimmage from Saturday?
The DB unit's phenomenal. I don't think there's any question about that, and they're deep. They're really deep there. I know everyone wants to talk about Greg saying that the D-line is 10 deep. The DBs might be 10 deep. Like there's just guys everywhere. It's going to be hard to keep Igbinosin off the field, but you have 2 veteran guys in Izzy and who's been phenomenal at run stopping over the past couple years, and Avery Young, who's probably got the most experience of anyone on the team. So it's going to be hard to keep those two off the field, but you're going to have to find a way to slide Igmanosin in there at times. Cornerbacks, I think it's pretty obvious. They got a bunch of dudes. Max Melton, I'd be shocked if he isn't in the NFL next year. I expect him to have a very big year. I think teams are going to have struggles with their number 1 wide receivers. I think they're going to get them locked down quite a bit. I think that's when it's going to come down to, like, maybe the BC game, for example. It might come down to, like, a Jalen Gill or someone else, like, stepping up if they want to score at the end of the day. I think Max is going to be able to handle, I forget their wide receiver.
Zay Flowers?
Yeah, Flowers. I think he'll handle him pretty well. They're going to have to try to move him around and get Max away from him, obviously. But
well, he's a slot receiver, too. So I don't know if, Schiano typically doesn't like shadow guys, so
yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, Christian Braswell's pretty good. Son Abrams very good. He had like one of the best years per PFF. I think he was all PFF Big Ten first team or second team or something.
Yeah, Kazan was first team.
Yeah, he's undersized obviously, but he's not afraid to fight, and he can jump high as hell, so that helps. Longer beams, transforming into a really, really good player. What a snag! I hate to bring up his name, but what a snag by Fran Brown in that one.
Yeah.
He identified him at Temple, found him, got him committed, even though he played wide receiver his whole high school. And was like, hey, we need you. Brought him over. I think he played wide receiver for like 4 practices, and they're like, nope, go over here. So yeah, I mean, that's a hell of a player. And there's other guys that are still developing. Shaquan Loyal is going to play a little bit. Cardinal Davis might play a little bit. There's a lot of guys back there. Maybe I might be over-exaggerating with the 10 deep, but it's probably close to 8 to 10. Like, they got dudes all throughout back there, and it's going to be interesting to see how they do. I mean, they're not going to be able. Teams aren't going to be able to pass on them, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, if there's any position that Schiano has really developed better than any others, it's DB. So it seems like that tradition's continuing, which is great to hear. But pretty excited to hear any kind of depth chart stuff that comes out over the next few weeks. However much Schiano's willing to discuss, I doubt it's going to be much. But they're starting game prep, I believe, because they're taking a day off today, and I believe they're jumping into game prep starting this week.
Yeah, so tomorrow and then Wednesday we'll be at both of those, and I think that's it for the week. And then I think we wait till Monday. Press conference, we'll probably get a depth chart, and the depth chart's going to say starter or starter or and it's going to be everyone you already know about.
Yep, but we will know one starter at least, and that's the kicker. And punter, obviously.
Yeah.
So let's transition to a little bit of hoops recruiting. We do have a disclaimer. I meant to bring this up on the last podcast about basketball recruiting, but obviously there was about a month ago, there was a huge kind of Rutgers earth-shattering news on Twitter, and it was reported by Zags saying that Bronny James and his camp were interested in Rutgers. Now, that came out of nowhere. It didn't really have any sourcing from what you guys were able to hear. I think you got some really good intel on this that you want to share, though.
Yeah, so don't get hyped, guys. Like, relax. It's not happening. From what I was told, is Rutgers hasn't ever talked to Bronny whatsoever. Now, would they take him? I'm sure. Of course they would. Who wouldn't? Like, out of most programs, if not all, would probably take Bronny right now just for the publicity alone. You'd have LeBron courtside. You'd have your game sold out a lot more. Whether you're Rutgers, Duke probably sells out already, but whoever gets him, it's going to be a media shit show. But regardless, it doesn't sound like Rutgers even pursued him once, even showed interest at all. So I mean, don't get your hopes up. But the good news is they're pursuing a lot bigger name targets, which I didn't think I'd be saying anytime soon. And Dylan Harper's obviously number 1, and he's 40 spots ahead of him in the in the rankings or something, 50 spots maybe at this point. So no Bronny James, but you might get something a lot better. Pretty good consolation prize.
Yeah, not too bad. And it seems like you've kind of made a lot of waves amongst Rutgers fans too, with how positive you were about Rutgers' chances with Dylan Harper. And since that podcast, Dylan's actually made another visit to campus. Mm-hmm. You did the whole photo shoot and all the jerseys. Gotta say, he looks pretty good in scarlet. But did you hear anything about how that visit went, or just as well as we kind of expected it to?
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing really to it. He obviously loved the visit. He's been there I don't even know. I know we have only like 2 or 3 visits on the profiles, but he's been at almost every game watching his brother play over the past season or two. Whenever fans were allowed, he was pretty much there. Yeah, so I mean, the visit went extremely well. You can't really say much more. I think he just likes hanging out with the staff and the players, which is a good thing. His family's very close with Cliff, so Cliff's always hyping him up on Instagram and Twitter. I don't know if you see Dylan's post. Dylan will post like a random, like, I don't even know. He'll post just like a random AAU post, and he'll be like, yeah, just ball in or something. And you always see his Cliff like Rutgers.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Cliff is like the ace recruiter right here. But the family's so close with Pike. They love that. He's just so close with the Harper family. They turned Ron into I know Ron was already pretty good beforehand, but they developed Ron quite a bit. And that's a big thing that's like a lot of players are paying attention to. And you see it in the articles too. They're saying like, oh, Rutgers is developing dudes. Now they're putting a dude in the NBA. And now maybe they'll do it again this year with Cliff. So now it's like, all right, Rutgers can produce. They have a brand new facility, which might be better than most, if not all. I've heard. Yeah. I know Pike hypes it up a bit, but you see that facility compared to like others, like it's pretty damn nice.
Yeah.
I mean, look at Kentucky, for example. They're having issues over there because they don't have a new practice facility. They have one. It's old, but Calipari probably saw Rutgers and was like, damn, I need that thing.
Yeah, that's definitely what he's thinking.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, trust me on this one. My sources are as good as Zag's. Anyway. Yeah, no, I mean, they're doing very, very well with Dylan. I know he's probably not ready to commit anytime soon, and I'm sure he probably wants to take a couple more visits, but I like Rutgers' chances quite a bit. Like, it's hard not to. The kid's been there about, like, 15 times, 20 times maybe.
Yeah.
He's close with Pike. He's close with Cliff. I know, obviously, he might not play with Cliff. He actually 100% won't play with Cliff the more I think about it. But he's very close with his staff. Knight's doing a great job recruiting him. Carl Hobbs is doing a great job on the trail, and no one's really talking about that. He's recruiting all these DMV guys all of a sudden. These guys are earning their paycheck. Like, it's pretty good so far. I mean, and then you got TJ Thompson finding under the radar guys through his connections. Like Antoine Woolfolk was a straight TJ Thompson guy, and he looks like he might actually be a pretty damn good player down the line, obviously. But
yeah, and one thing with Harper is that he's not taking visits elsewhere,
exactly.
Which is not necessarily a sign that he's a lock for Rutgers, but doesn't seem like he's in any kind of rush to go out and see other schools. I'm sure he will, because he's not going to just go nowhere but Rutgers. But the fact that he's not making an effort to kind of go in the summer, I know AAU is a big thing, but this is kind of the time where you get out and see some schools.
It's interesting. I mean, I could see him going to Duke for like a visit. I know they just offered, so obviously that's going to be one he's going to keep a close eye on. Indiana, they still are talking like pretty highly of him. I know they built quite a relationship. Do I think he goes to Indiana? No, but it would be pretty funny if he did like a commitment thing and did what Moses Walker did and was like Indiana and it just that would be awesome. They might shit a brick. Like they're losing it. Now, are they still recruiting at another level? Like, yeah, they just got like one of the top like 3 prospects or top 5 prospects in the country. So who cares? But yeah, no, Rutgers is doing phenomenal on the trail. Dylan Harper, if I had to make a future cast right now, I'm not going to yet, but if I had to, I'd probably put Rutgers.
And that's huge. But obviously, he's the white whale of recruiting for Rutgers. But who else is Rutgers gonna kind of doing well with, and who we might see visit in the near future? Yeah,
we talked about it in the last pod. Trey Norman's coming to campus on September 2nd that weekend. So is Bay Fall. Trey Norman, for starters, he's probably going to be upgraded in our new rankings. It sounds like he's going to be 4-star. I don't know where in the top 150 that falls. I think it's around like 120 and up is 4-star, or 110 and up or something like that. So it's a pretty significant jump for him because he's going from not unranked, but 3-star, not ranked in top 150 to top 120 and 110. It sounds like Rutgers got into the game very late, but they are going to get him on a visit right before his commitment. He is committing on the 6th in honor of Terrence Clark, who a former Kentucky guy who passed away. I don't know the exact details of what his relationship was with him, but I know he was very fond of his game, and I think he's from around the same area, if I'm correct. So I think that's the big reason why. But it does sound like Marquette's in a pretty good lead right now. Harvard's a dark horse candidate because he did take an official visit there as well. But you got to think, like, if you're getting him on campus September 2nd, he's committing September 6th. You got to have a little bit of confidence there, especially because he hasn't been to Marquette since April. So as much as Marquette's that favorite, Pike and crew might be able to just flip this real quick. And then you can't complain if you're a Rutgers fan. And I don't want to hear anyone about the rankings if he commits to Rutgers, because then you'll be like, oh, he committed to Rutgers. But, oh, 4-star, wait, what happened?
Mm-hmm.
I thought they're supposed to drop when they commit.
Yep.
Yeah, so, I mean, there's a good chance they could pull this off. And like you mentioned, Pike's done it before. He's had these guys last minute, and they're Rutgers guys.
Yeah, Pike's been able to close when it looks like guys are going elsewhere in the past. I mean, we all remember Montez Mathis. It looked like he was a lock for UConn. And then over like the weekend before he's supposed to commit, he ends up at Rutgers. You saw it with Cliff. It sounded like he was an Arizona State lean late. And I mean, we recruited Cliff forever, but he ended up at Rutgers. So Pike, for all the shit he gets for recruiting, he's closed. He's, in it with top guys now. I think we just I think we were expecting a little too much of him early, because people don't realize how hard it is to work with a program that doesn't have any facilities. It hasn't made the NCAA tournament in 30 years. It was just getting pummeled under Eddie Jordan, Mike Rice fiasco. Like, there was a lot of baggage with Rutgers that he had to overcome, and he's showing that he can overcome it. And now he's starting to take that next step with a consistently high-level recruiting output. So I think people are starting to take the brakes off giving Pike shit, but it's still a little lingering a bit, and I don't think it's deserved.
No, not at all. Recruiting alone speaks for itself. When's the last time Rutgers was recruiting at this level? Maybe when Fred Hill landed like Mike Rosario and all them? Maybe.
Yeah, I'd say that's probably about right.
But even then, like they still weren't winning back then. At least now they're winning and recruiting at this level. And it goes to show you, winning solves all. And NIL's still a factor, of course, with some guys. But I want to kind of intertwine with that. Like Bay Fall coming to campus. Rutgers must be doing like some pretty good stuff on the NIL front that people aren't talking about in terms of hoops. If you look at Bay Fall's official visit schedules, who's he going to? It's Rutgers, then
Texas, Arkansas.
It was Arkansas, Rutgers, Texas, and then he's going to Seton Hall. We know damn well Seton Hall and Holloway are making headway with NIL deals. We know damn well Arkansas is like, you see these NIL deals these guys are getting in Arkansas. Holy shit! It's like the Miami, Texas A&M of hoops.
Mm-hmm.
And then who's the other one? Texas.
Texas.
No question. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
So, I mean, either Pike's like the greatest recruiter of all time to keep up with these guys without NIL, or there's some NIL stuff going on. And
that doesn't necessarily mean he's shady either. He's just making sure that they're aware that they have opportunities at Rutgers.
There you go. That's the Knights of the Raritan, who have already secured you Caleb McConnell for another year somehow. So, I mean, it's if you're not donating to them, like I know we say it every pod, but like you're fucking up. I'm saying it straight up.
And obviously we have a few sponsors now. KTR is not one of our sponsors. We hype them up and give them publicity because we realize how important they are to Rutgers athletics' future. And I just hope everybody who's listening to this pod, if they haven't signed up yet, seriously consider it. It's only $10 a month. I mean, if you're listening to this, you're probably a member of either one or both of the main Rutgers boards as well. Like, you've had this hammered into your head. You guys should be joining. Rutgers needs you. Shiano has come out and said that they need you. Pike hasn't mentioned it, but I'm sure he would mention it if it was brought up to him. It's just, you got to get in on this, guys. It's so important.
I mean, I can tell you for a fact, like hoops recruits, it used to be like, hey, how much football too? How much playing time am I getting? How much playing time am I getting? Now it's like, no, how much money am I getting? And it's like that's not how it works. Like, it's not supposed to be this way. But Rutgers is doing it the right way. The Knights of the Raritan are doing it the right way. Once you're getting to campus, look, you got this. Like, for example, you could kind of sell like the Geo Baker thing and be like, hey, look, Geo did cameos here, and you did this. He did Knights of the Raritan. Now Caleb's doing Knights of the Raritan. Now there's the Knights Society. Now there's this, there's that. And they're having a big event coming up too, I saw. Yeah,
no, that should be a good time. I don't follow them as closely as Knights of the Raritan, but they are doing great things.
Yeah, I think it's the 28th or 29th. They're having the similar event. A couple of different people. Ron Harper's going to be there at Tavern on the George. Who else was it?
Eric Grand obviously is going to be there. Gio's obviously going to be there.
Gio, so I mean it's something to keep an eye on. It's very similar to the Knights of the Raritan, but Rutgers is getting very involved with the NIL things, and it's starting to work in their favor. It looks like.
Yeah, for sure. So we've kind of ran through a lot of stuff pretty quickly today. Richie, was there anything else you wanted to go over before we sign off?
Let's see. Trey Norman, Bay Fall, football. Oh, football recruiting we didn't really touch on too much. There's not a whole lot going on. They did offer a guy, Christopher Otto, out of Key West, Florida. Talked to him for a little bit over the past couple days. I'm going to go a little more in-depth with him probably today or tomorrow. We're supposed to talk on the phone. But it sounds like he's probably going to stay in Florida. It sounds like he's a Florida State lean. He's going to take an official there soon. So I'd probably just count that one out. Jake Eldridge, an IMG Academy long snapper. Long snapper again. Mm-hmm. Sounds like Rutgers is trying to find one in the 2023 class, and he's ranked number 2 per Chris Rubio's long snapper rankings. I don't know how you rank long snappers, but there's a way. He's going to come to campus on an official, it sounds like, in for the Indiana game. I forget when that is. I think it's October, something like that. But yeah, he's going to be one to keep an eye on. He was committed to UCLA for quite some time, but he decommitted. He's a Texas kid, so it's a little interesting, but he is playing in Florida, so this kid's kind of just traveling, just exploring the country at this point. Went out to UCLA, committed, decommitted now, so now he's going to be like, hey, let's try the East Coast. But other than that, 2023 recruiting's pretty quiet. It sounds like they're going to probably just push it back towards the transfer portal. Other than that, we didn't talk wrestling really. I know they got a new assistant coach in Joe Pollard. It's an interesting hire. It's a promotion technically.
Yep.
You got to replace.
Sounds like he's been with Goody forever. He's been there since like 2011.
Yeah, so technically he's been there for quite some time. He was a D3 National Assistant Coach of the Year in 2007, produced 18 D3 All-Americans. I mean, he has good development skills. I think a lot of people just question. He was the head coach of the SKWC as well. So now it's going to get a little interesting because the SKWC lost a couple guys. Mm-hmm. Obviously, they lost Ashnault, which is like the Rutgers guy through and through. Interestingly enough, he's running with NYC RTC instead of SKWC. I don't know the logistics behind these wrestling clubs and how it works. But yeah, I mean it's a decent hire. It's a solid hire. I don't know if it was their top guy. It's hard to argue. I don't know enough to follow it like well enough. I know Lex would know more, but yeah, they did make a new hire, and the program. There's some people out there, like some wrestling analysts were saying that they think Rutgers might finish like top 5, top 8 in the.
I saw that, yeah.
So I mean, it sounds like the team could be pretty damn good, and then we all know they're heavily pursuing Jimmy Mullen, the football / wrestling / all around athlete from St. Joe's. So I mean, something to monitor there.
Yeah, I think it'd be cool to have Lex on to talk wrestling recruiting because I know he's always getting requests for updates in the Ask the Staff threads. I know he's the head coach of it's not Mondon anymore, right?
No,
it's just Donovan Catholic. Yeah, okay. So he's the head coach of Donovan Catholic, so he doesn't have nearly as much time as I think he used to. So give him some time to answer these wrestling questions when you ask them, guys, because he's pretty busy at this point, and wrestling's training's starting to ramp up. But thanks again for tuning in, guys. We're gonna try and get at least 2 pods out a week now that kind of we're ramping up to in-season mode. So stay tuned to your podcast feed, stay tuned to the site, because there's gonna be a ton of content in the lead up to the season and during the season. So for me and Richie, thanks again for listening, guys. This has been another edition of the Night Report podcast, signing off.